Well, hi there, students. This is Mr. V. This is a landscape piece that I'm working on, and I decided to use a shading technique on this tree called scumbling. Scumbling means controlled scribbling. It's basically where you carry your pencil over the contours of your surface. You can do several different techniques to achieve texture, but in this way, I'm kind of covering the surface of this tree with my pencil. Where would the corners be, where would the nooks and crannies be, and that's where my pencil went. And I would go over it in multiple layers, just like any shading technique, in order to get value. It gives it kind of an organic, lifelike appearance. Now, what's going on here? Basic concept of landscape is to have dynamics in your composition and make it interesting, make it so it's not flat left to right. And we've got flat foliage here that it's tempting for the beginning artist to draw just a plane like a fence left to right on your piece that's flat. Well, to avoid that, I made it going to a vanishing point. There are two planes of this, one in the distance and one close to us. And if you have slanted planes in your surface, it makes it more interesting to look at rather than your basic, flat horizon line with a house sitting on it. Okay, let's talk scale. Scale is where you change the size of an object to give a certain mood or effect in your piece. And here's a nice little hiker looking image over here that I drew, and he's close to us. So now we know how tall this tree is. But what if we put him off in the distance? Oh my gosh, now he's a towering giant walking through the hillside. That just changed the mood of the piece. So, scale basically means how big you make your forms in order to make a certain mood in the piece and to give a sense of depth and help the viewer understand, what's what. It makes it believable, it makes people think, oh, that could happen in the real world, even if it's a fantasy piece like this. So I put like a little farm up in the foreground to give you kind of a sense of how big things are. And let's do it again with this one. I drew him bolder and I placed him on a plane that was closer to us. And this goes back to atmospheric perspective. Things that are closer to you are bolder and more detailed. Things that are far away are a lot hazier, and there's atmosphere between us and it, and there's less detail. It's a way to create the illusion of depth. All right, hatching. This is an example of the layering process right here. On the computer, you can't really blend your strokes if you're doing it in this specific way that I'm doing it. So this is an example of layering, just going over a plane or a surface multiple times to give it value. And you'll see that a lot in this foreground cliff over here, this hillside, and the background that you're going to see. So this piece was this piece wasn't planned to be a giant piece like this. I just kind of let it happen on the paper. I just wanted to show the basic techniques, and being spontaneous in your work is a great way to have to impart life and creativity and dynamic in your piece. So you'll see a couple more close-ups like that of the scumbling process. It's not scribble. It's actually controlled scribbling. You have a purpose, a path where you're going on it, and so on. We'll work on that in class. You'll see very few contour lines in this piece. It's mostly all value. You can draw, for example, these cliff faces. It's all done with implied lines that are defined by their surrounding values. And this is just cross-hatching. If you want to show a cliff face, a bright part of a hill, put a dark thing next to it. If you want to show off something, put a light thing next to it. Go dark to light, dark to light. Just basic rule of value and composition. So here we're going to see the cross-hatching process. To get more value, to get different layers, just change the direction that your strokes go. Still keep them small. That keeps them controlled. That gives control in your work and uniform distribution of tone. That just means everything's spread over evenly. Great way to do texture, great way to have more control over your values, in my opinion, with cross-hatching. There's a lot going on here that the computer does that you aren't going to be able to replicate on paper. For example, cutting parts out and pasting parts. Adding last-minute highlights like this. You could do that with an eraser by dabbing it on top of your drawings, but these would just be things that you plan in advance. So some artists that are great at scumbling, Alan Lee, he's one of the concept artists who did Lord of the Rings. He draws things by basically, sometimes he doesn't even pick his pencil up off the paper. I saw in some of his videos where he was drawn in a sketchbook. It's all one continuous line. It's a great way to kind of give yourself to practice on loosening up and giving your work fluidity and organic qualities to it. And just adding some last minute details. I hope you found this helpful. Feel free to rewind it and watch it again just to kind of see how the techniques work. And I'll look forward to seeing you in class. All right, take care.